Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06, Thursday, the third day of July, which is the day before the 4th of July, which is Independence Day. So happy Independence Day Eve, I guess, is the best way to put it for all who celebrate, and you better all be celebrating our independence from those redcoats. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for joining us on what should be a pretty busy and quite possibly historic Thursday morning as the House of Representatives are concluding their debate right now after pulling an all-nighter with lots of nail-biting, cliff-hanging procedural votes that seem to be poised right now, maybe, to once again see Speaker Mike Johnson pull a rabbit out of a hat and get that big, beautiful bill across the finish line. We'll see. It's probably going to happen in real time here as the morning develops. Also at 6:35, depending on that schedule of votes on the House floor, we'll check in with Representative Andy Harris of Maryland, or we won't. It's one of those things. He might be needed. But if you want to hear from a congressman involved in this vote, check in at 6:35. Then at 7:05, Paula Scanlon. She's one of the swimmers who was forced to compete alongside teammate Leah Thomas. She is now getting an apology from her university after years of activism. We'll have Paula do a bit of a victory lap here and then say what's next in this fight, because it ain't over. They're not giving up. 8:05, KT McFarland on whether Hamas will agree to this ceasefire. And then at 8:35, if all goes well, we will have the victory lap of all victory laps. Yes, Mike Johnson should be applauded if he does, in fact, pull off this miracle with the thinnest of majorities in the House and get that tax cut through. But the man who crafted it, the man who engineered it, the man who put together the big, beautiful bill is the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Jason Smith of Missouri. And if everything goes right, he'll be here for probably his very first victory lap on something that he should be very proud of. These are the tax cuts. Again, Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
I apologize. I'm like,
good morning. It's okay.
Diving in here. I'm getting excited. I think you're getting tired of me saying, why did they call this big, beautiful bill? So, you know the origins of one big, beautiful bill is that they had two different options this year. One was the House strategy, the other was the Senate strategy. The Senate strategy, championed by Lindsey Graham, was to have two bills, two reconciliation packages. One with all the easy stuff that wasn't controversial and everyone would agree to, and then the other one that had some of the things that were going to be a little tougher to get across the finish line.
Right.
And in the House, Jason Smith, the gentleman who will be joining us at 8:35, and House Speaker Mike Johnson and various other advisors said, you don't want to do that because you'll get all the stuff that's an easy lift for the Senate, and then they will never vote for the other stuff, and it'll never go anywhere, and you'll be stuck, and you won't get everything you want. If you want everything that you want, you put it all into one big, beautiful bill. And Trump loved the idea of one big, beautiful bill, and that's why they called it one big, beautiful bill. But the fact of the matter is, this is a tax cut. This could very well end up being the single largest tax cut in American history, especially because the unprecedented move to end taxes on tips and overtime. The CBO doesn't even know how to score that. They've never even seen anything like that. It could be huge. It could be such a boon. Also lost in the mix is something that President Trump promised on the campaign trail, but didn't get. It's not as sexy. It's not as soundbitey as no tax on tips. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime was so soundbitey, so smart, so effective that even Kamala Harris copied it as soon as she possibly could. All the Democrats are like, oh, no tax on tips is stupid. Kamala Harris ran on it too. She was part of her campaign.
She stole it.
She stole it. Of course she did. But lost in the mix is also the idea that Trump did promise that for all new capital investments, for infrastructure, equipment, you want to build a new factory, you want to redo your factory and get all new equipment and all new computer systems and all new automation and all that stuff. You can expense that now instead of having to do your accounting tricks to spread out the cost over multiple years. It's huge for companies. The bottom line here is it might seem like an accounting thing for tax purposes, but it's huge for a giant influx of new investment that businesses are just waiting to do. As soon as this thing is passed, people will understand exactly what they can do with capital investments in their businesses. They will know what their tax burden is going to be for the next several years now. They'll know that the tax cuts for personal income will not be sunset like they're supposed to do at the end of this year. They'll know exactly. They can start planning. They can start spending, and the economy is going to explode. It just needs to get done. And, well, that's what's happening in the House right now, Julie. You've been part of these all-night sessions, haven't you, in the past?
Sure, yeah. And it has been kind of funny to see Democrats do this sort of, woe is me, I have to work, I have to stay up, I had to drive. There's one congressman, and I don't have it in front of me, but he said he did a selfie video, which that honestly they should stop. They
all
need
did
to stop.
those. It was so obvious that some advisor
scripted.
Said, "Do this,
and
guys."
They're
really
calling
relatable.
it like the big ugly bill or the big bad bill or something. They all have the same language. And this one congressman said, "I drove all the way to Chicago to catch a separate." I mean, he's in like Milwaukee, and he's like, "I drove all the way to Chicago because my flight was canceled." We had a few of those stunts on the right as well. Nancy Mace showing up to cast her vote in pajamas. I know you have no problem with that. I do. I don't like these stunts in general. I don't like them on the left. I don't like them on the right.
They were
you
cute
are
little jammies.
okay. That's enough. And yes, that you sound like Jarvis on Twitter. I think that I think we elect you. You live very privileged lives. You have staffs, and I know this, that get a lot done for you and your family. So go to work. If you have to stay up one night, it's not the end of the world.
Well, no, they're saying this is how much I care about my constituents. That I'm, right. And it's like, imagine doing a selfie video for social media, letting the world know that you're going to work. That's what it is. It's like, here I am, everybody. Oh, my gosh. I need your thoughts and prayers, please, because I'm going to work today.
We have a bunch of listeners that listen right at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? They communicate with us on Twitter, right? They're like, I'm up and I'm listening.
They do, the early ones.
Yeah. You're not Congress. I'm sorry you had to get up early or stay up late. Deal with it.
It's hilarious, but it is what it is. This is politics, and they're all fools. Well, I mean, that's the latest. I don't have a lot more to tell you other than the fact that they've been debating all night. They've been having all these procedural votes. It looks like the whole thing was going to die in a fire around I want to say 1 a.m. They still have some holdouts. I mean, this is not a done deal, but it looks like. I mean, we've been down this road before with Speaker Johnson, and he's got the smile on his face that he has when he knows he's got the final trump card, and I think that final trump card, well, is named Trump, actually. And President Trump did start getting rather active last night. He had one Truth Social post that sort of it sort of gave a glimpse into what it's going to look like if this doesn't go his way. He sent out a post. Excuse me. Let me grab it here. Hang on. Here it is. He said, largest tax cuts in history, booming economy versus biggest tax cut increase in history and a failed economy. What are the Republicans waiting for? He's a Republican. He says, what are you trying to prove? MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes. That's what he put out last night in the middle of the night. That suggested let's get in line and let's get this done. So we'll see. We'll see. It's developing before our very eyes. And again, in terms of power players involved in this vote, we'll have Andy Harris at 6:35. He's not only congressman from Maryland, but he's also the chairman of the Freedom Caucus. And then at 8:35, the chairman of Ways and Means, Congressman Jason Smith. Right now it's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
And as a result, people are going to die. Connected to this one big ugly bill. Tens of thousands of unnecessary American deaths per year. Shame on Republicans for even bringing this bill to the House floor.
That's how bad it's gotten for the Democrats. People are going to die on an annual basis because of this bill. Here's the thing. I think all of those people who are poised to die because of this bill, they're already dead because of net neutrality. The body count remains the same. It's just even Obama put out a half-hearted tweet. People are going to lose their health care because of this. It's like, well, when has Barack Obama ever lied about people losing their health care when it comes to
this one out, buddy?
Big piece of legislation. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on, the markets continue to thrive. We're seeing record days on S&P 500, and yesterday another big bounce because of an announced trade deal with Vietnam. The president and Howard Lutnick, his chief negotiator here, the Commerce Secretary, put out a statement. Lutnick says the trade deal with Vietnam is a massive win for American businesses, manufacturers, and farmers. For the first time ever, Vietnam will open its market to the United States. They're going to pay 20% to sell their products here and 40% on transshipping, meaning if another country sells their content through products exported by Vietnam to us, they'll get hit with a 40% tariff. It's a huge win for our farmers. That means a lot of countries do this. It's like if there's a tariff on, let's say, country A, instead they'll ship it, to a nearby country like Vietnam.
China
in other words,
does this
China.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, it's not a China product, it's a Vietnamese product. It's coming in from Vietnam. No, we're smarter than that.
Right.
And you're still going to have to pay an even higher tariff. Trump announced this as well on Truth Social. Is saying that the United States is going to have total access to their markets for trade. They're going to open their market to the United States, meaning that we'll be able to sell our products into Vietnam at 0 tariffs. And meanwhile, Vietnam will sell at 20% here. And by the way, the other reason this is important is because China needs to China thinks that they hold all the cards in this debate in many respects because they think, oh, no one's going to move their manufacturing. The fact is, if there are other Asian countries that can manufacture at a lower tariff than China is going to end up paying, companies aren't stupid. They're going to start doing that. And they're going to start doing it with countries, even though Vietnam has troubles of their own. They're not as totalitarian, authoritarian, and thug-like as China is. It's huge. It's a big deal. We've never had a trade deal with Vietnam before.
It is a big deal. And again, this is all due to this sort of gamble that Trump made early on with tariffs. And it's working. And it's interesting, I was talking to a real estate agent this weekend who was telling me that she talks to people, leftists, obviously, in Northern Virginia, most of the people who live here. And they're really having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that the tariffs didn't end up being a bad thing, and that things seem to be okay. Mm-hmm. And we see the price of eggs coming, not related, but we see the price of eggs coming down, and the real estate market hasn't cratered in the Northern Virginia area or in the DC area. And she said she just talks to people and they're very open with her, and they're having a really hard time dealing with this. The good news, and I think we're going to see more and more of these sort of unhinged, people are going to die messages from the Democrats because they really have nothing left but to panic about nothing.
Right. And the fact is, and the other reason why this trade deal with Vietnam, which a lot of people, it's like we know that there's going to be trade deals coming with various countries. I don't think Vietnam was necessarily on the map, but the fact that we've never had a comprehensive trade deal with Vietnam and they pulled this one out. And understand something, we had no access to their markets at all. You may say, oh, who cares? Who wants to? You know what? If you're a business, if you're a multinational business.
Are you kidding?
It's another market and it's not a small population. You start adding those customers to your base. Also, there were no tariffs on Vietnamese goods being shipped into this country. When Trump imposed the tariffs at the beginning of April, immediately Vietnam had a blanket 46% tariff. Then everyone said, oh, no, don't do that. So then they said, okay, fine. We've got a 90-day window here where we will negotiate deals with you. During that time, the tariff will be lowered to 10%. And now they've agreed on 20%. And everyone who screams, it's like, oh, the tariffs are going to ruin the economy. No, actually, that is exactly what I just painted out for you. All right, we go from no tariffs to 46% tariffs to 10% while we negotiate, and then we land on 20%. That's called a deal. That's called negotiation. And you start with the biggest draconian club you can find and you whack the person over the head with it. And then you figure out how to make a deal. And that's what happened. And other countries are now going to start falling in line because that 90-day pause is almost up. And you don't want to be the last one at the table. Vietnam was smart to make this deal.
That's
and
right.
He's doing that work. His administration is doing that work. And people in the House of Representatives, Republicans in particular, should take a look at that and say, okay, he's doing his job down the street. Why don't we do our job too, deliver? And then if we really don't like all the spending that the government is engaged in and all of the debt, Then we go to committee and we do our job. This is a tax cut bill. Get the tax cuts done, and then we can start focusing on spending in committee. That's what they should do. I don't quite understand why it's difficult.
That's right. I agree.
Good. Well, hopefully we'll...
Are we up? I feel like you're going to yell at me if I say anything.
Do I ever yell at you?
Never.
Good. It's 5:23.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the good news that USAID has been shut down. As you guys know, USAID was really just funding, it became an adjunct basically of the Democrat Party and funding really corrupt programs. And it turns out, probably no big surprise here, that the establishment is not happy. We'll update you. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:36 now, O'Connor and Company. Just to get you an update, as we started around 3:35, 3:40 in the morning, they passed the final rule. It was sort of open for hours. You know how they keep votes open for hours as they twist arms and such. They got that passed. The debate's begun. Congressmen are stepping up. They're talking, and they're going to be voting on the big, beautiful bill. I would like to call it your big, beautiful tax cut, which is what it really is.
So much better.
It'll probably happen during this program. And to that end, we'll also talk to some of the key players at 6:35. Andy Harris, he's the chairman of the Freedom Caucus. 7:05, Paula Scanlon. She's getting an apology from her alma mater over making her, well, get undressed next to a man every day at swim practice. 8:05 brings us KT McFarland. And then 8:35, the architect of the big, beautiful bill, the man who made Trump's big, beautiful bill in the first place, Chairman Jason Smith, Ways and Means. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Julie, one thing we didn't need Congress to do, and so, of course, it got done pretty quickly, was the elimination of a lot of bloat and inefficiency and waste and fraud in the executive branch. And the sort of perfect example of everything wrong with what was being done with our tax dollars through the executive branch was USAID. This was basically a slush fund. It was created by Jack Kennedy. It was meant to promote democracy around the world, but over the last several years, really since Obama, it had become a slush fund for special interests related to left-wing non-government organizations where people would get jobs and get funding as they left the Obama administration or Biden administration. They go in there, they can play with all this federal money that's been given to them under all these, auspices of do-goodership and, saving the world. They went in there, targeted it pretty quickly, recognized how wasteful it was, put Secretary of State Marco Rubio in charge. He moved some of the critical portions of that agency under the umbrella of the State Department and then shut down the rest of it, and people are going insane. The reactions are hilarious. Here's my favorite. These are 3 different hosts at CNN in prime time last night. Now, let me just be clear as you listen to this. Cut 2. This is 3 hosts. Abby Phillips, Anderson Cooper, Caitlin Collins. 3 different programs on the same night on CNN. Listen to this. It's stunning.
USAID has officially shut down tonight. A new study found that its elimination could contribute to 14 million deaths in the next 5 years, nearly a third of which are estimated to be among children younger than 5 years old.
Now, a new study in the medical journal The Lancet estimates that USAID funding cuts could result in millions of additional deaths in the next 5 years. These deaths include 4.5 million among children younger than 5 years, or more than 700,000 deaths annually.
The Washington Post reports that the cuts have already had a sudden, deadly impact on Sudan, the home to the world's largest humanitarian crisis. The Post is reporting that according to dozens of civilians, doctors and aid officials, babies have starved to death as soup kitchens supported by the U.S. were forced to close. Also, medical supplies are no longer even being delivered, and the absence of disease response teams has made it harder to contain outbreaks. The World Health Organization says
you get
5
the picture.
million...
3 different shows, 3 different hosts. I guess the same scriptwriter.
Yes.
Over
Yes.
and over and over again. People are dying because they shut down USAID. First of all,
and babies are dying.
But don't forget the babies. Any program that, first of all, by the way, leading up to this point, I've been told by the left that the U.S. doesn't do anything. We're so selfish. We do nothing for the rest of the country. We gobble up the world's resources, and we do nothing for anyone else out there. Now we shut down this one program. You're killing people by shutting it. Wait a second. So these people were only alive because of America? Where was the credit? Where were all the props and the praise of America keeping those babies alive up until now? No, you'll never get that because they hate our country. And
Right.
by the way, no one's dying. Any critical agency that was actually helping people and saving lives has been put under the umbrella of the State Department. It's still functioning. It's still going. Our buddy Derek Hunter, our afternoon drive host here on WMAL, he made the point yesterday. It's funny. CNN literally has global resources. They have reporters everywhere around the planet, and yet they're relying on a Washington Post article and a Lancet report. I mean, if people are dying because something got shut down in the Sudan, why don't they just send a camera crew over there and show us?
This is what they do. Every report comes out. It was like the attack on Iran. The first report, was I actually can't remember at this point, but it was like it was the same kind of thing where the New York Times reported it, then the Washington Post reported it, but really what they just reported was what the New York Times said. Then the CNN confirmed what Washington Post said because of what New York Times said. They all just do this thing where they just confirm each other.
Of course, they don't need to send a reporter to Sudan or Ethiopia or wherever people are dying, apparently now, because they shut down USAID. All they have to do is send a reporter like a mile and a quarter away from their headquarters near Union Station, send them over to Foggy Bottom, and talk to the State Department about what was really being done with these agencies. Tammy Bruce, spokesperson for the State Department, she laid it out yesterday. Here's cut 3.
We are not ending foreign aid. We are making it more nimble. We are operating at the speed of relevancy to making sure that the millions and billions of dollars that we spend on aid get to where it is meant to go. There is nothing to be proud of when 90%, according to Samantha Powers, is not even making it to the people to whom it was promised.
90%, so 90 cents on every dollar wasn't even getting to the people on the ground. It was getting soaked up by the bureaucracy. And who's Samantha Powers, who she cited? That's the woman who was running USAID under Joe Biden.
Larry, I used to work, I feel like I've had every job possible, but I used to work at the American Red Cross at headquarters. And we were very concerned about Charity Rater. And if you get, and this is one of these, they rate charities, Charity Rater, they rate charities. I'm not sure I have that exactly right, the name of it. But basically, you as a charity would be horrified if the administrative costs weren't super low.
Yeah, you try to get a score that shows how much of the money actually goes to the people you're
exactly.
raising money
So
for.
private charities basically try very hard to keep their overhead very low.
That's right.
So that you can say to donors, 90% goes to the people who need it.
Right.
If Charity Tracker looked at USAID, they would it would make headlines all over the
It
world.
would be a scandal beyond
But
proportions.
because the federal government, it's okay.
Right.
It's
But
okay.
the difference is those private charities, they have to rely on private donors to give up their money and willfully donate. So they have to look good and they have to work efficiently. USAID, they don't have donors. They have us. They force us to pay for this. They take the money at gunpoint out of our pocket so they can be as inefficient as possible. By the way, that 90% that goes to the bureaucracy and the overhead, it's all Democrats. It's all crazy left-wing Democrats who operate as a shadow government when their guy isn't in office. Yep. Marco Rubio had another big announcement out of the State Department yesterday that we'll get to in just a second. It has to do with all of the logos and names of these organizations that provide aid to foreign countries. He's consolidated them now under one name and one logo. The logo has stars and stripes on it. We'll explain in a moment. It's 5:44.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
So, Julie, you live in Alexandria.
I do.
So you know what it's like many days to live in a third world nation. So imagine you're in that third world nation and the aid truck comes by because you're starving or you're you need clothing or shelter or whatever it is you need, or the power is down and the people are going to come and restore power or bring mosquito netting or whatever it is, right? And you get your big box of goodies, right? And it's got a logo on it that says Mercy Corps, or the U.S. President's Malaria Initiative, or Feed the Future. I love that one, Feed the Future. Or Global Communities, or Save the Children. You see these stickers on the outside of the box. It's like, thank you, Feed the Future. Thank you, Community Solutions. Thank you, Power Africa. These are all the logos and stickers, and the logos are all rainbow colored, and they all, they're beautiful, right? Here's the thing. All of those things I just mentioned, that's the United States government. That's the United States taxpayer.
Larry,
that's us.
Larry, we've been willing to take the American flag and any identifying, for instance, when we send food to North Korea, which is then taken by the regime and only given to certain people who are part of the party. But we have been willing to give aid by, with taking our label off, taking any kind of identifying, that it's from America. It's horrible.
Well, it's ending. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced yesterday that all of those different names of those organizations, the do-gooder NGOs, funded by the United States government or even part of the United States government in many cases, all funded by U.S. tax dollars, all of those logos go away. If you get a box now, if you get a package, if you get a truck rolling in delivering goods and services paid for by the American taxpayer, the redesign is fantastic, and they didn't have to spend much money on this new logo. It's the American flag. The American flag will be on that box, and no new name of a third-party organization like Mercy Corps, Global Communities, Community Solutions. No, the text right next to the flag, it's very simple. Provided by the United States of America.
There you go.
I actually wish it would say the taxpayers of the United States of America.
It's even better.
It's much better. Provided by American citizens.
Now, yes, and listen, the argument against that, Larry, is going to be that sometimes USAID is provided to countries whose government don't like us, but its people are starving.
Yeah, well,
and they will not accept. Right. But I'm just telling you, the humanitarian sort of staffer's message is going to be like, but our goal is to help the people. So sometimes when we deal with certain countries, we need to take off that label. But frankly, it's abused.
No, it is abused. And by the way, I completely get that. First, two problems with that. When you end up working for one of these aid agencies, you don't think about the American taxpayer because you wear your little uniform or you sign your little, hand out your little business card that says, Feed the Future and a Mercy Corps, and you don't recognize and don't even acknowledge that you work for me. You work for the U.S. government. Okay, you think that you're some independent functionary, and you can work despite the direction of the federal government, number one. Number two, I know it sounds cold and callous. Well, then let them starve if their government hates America and they don't want the American flag. I know that's cold and callous. And if you work for one of these aid agencies, you're in the business of feeding kids, and you just want to make sure these kids are saved. That's great. I get it. Okay, start your own 501c3 private charity called Mercy Corps, or called Global Communities, or called Save the Children. And you can raise the money independently to feed those kids. And you can maybe even get a grant from the U.S. government. I don't know. It's possible, certainly, to do that. But if it's coming from us and it's coming from our State Department, it should have the American flag on it, and it should be exactly what this says, provided by the United States of America. Because we've been doing this for decades now, and everyone thinks we're the beast and the meanie and the pariah and the monster around the planet.
Where's it gotten us?
And then you redesign the logos and you reorganize the funding structure under the State Department instead of USAID, and suddenly everybody's hair is on fire because they're saying without us people are going to starve. And it's like, where the hell were you people for the last several decades thanking us, praising us on the international stage for saving all of those children? You can't have it both ways. Things have changed, and I love this new development, and I love this Secretary of State. It's 5:53.